Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, joined by my other co-host, Goody. We'll be joined by Hall here very, very soon, and speak of the devil, he's pulling up now. But also joining us for this Miami Vice episode, going into the matchup against the Dolphins tomorrow, 9:30 a.m., It's too bad I'm not going to be able to watch it at first. I'll be at church, but I'll be able to tune in afterwards. But to be able to help us break down this game is great friend of this show, the hardworking man himself. You could call him the professor. You could call him Mr. 30K. You could call him the voice of Southern Virginia, Mr. Corey Sanchez. What's up, brother?
Oh, nothing much, man. I those lies that you just perpetrated on me didn't make any sense. Now, I've already told the folks at church that I won't be there on Sunday. So I said, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And they're like, why? It's like, well, I said, I got religious services on NFL Network, so I got to watch that, and instead of standing up for 24 minutes in praise and worship, because I mean, big guy. It's bad on the knees sometimes, so I'd rather get on bended knee and pray than stand up there and have the arms. I still haven't lost no weight doing that. So, but I'm happy to be here and saying bienvenidos to all my friends over there in Madrid.
Absolutely, and I know everyone is over in Madrid. I'll read off some things that were sent to us from the people that are visiting in Madrid. I know Chick Hernandez uploaded a video of him at 3:15 last night going to bed and pretty sloshed, and it's good that everyone's having a good time out there. But Corey, I know that I'm not going to skip church. I'm going to go to church tomorrow because I think in my own mind, the way I look at it, I'm saying I think Washington needs all the help they can get. And so hopefully I could do some extra prayers at church tomorrow to be able to get something done.
Two or more gathered. He's in the midst, so I can get somebody up here with me, and he's in the midst. We'll pray, and I'll read a verse, and then we'll get ready to rock and roll, because what does the Bible say? Somewhere in there it says anybody, anywhere, anytime, doesn't it?
I think it does. Now, Goody, it's a pleasure to see you, brother. Thank you for joining us. Hall, it's good to see you as well, brother.
Likewise.
We're going to do a round table before we get into fan questions and others of the sort. But, Corey, I want to go to you first, and then I'll go to you, Goody, about DQ taking over the play calling on defense. And I think Joe Witt, he had a very impromptu presser with some of the media members talking about the play call demotion. And I thought that he handled that beautifully. I think he did it in a very man way that he is supposed to. He took it on the chin. But do you think that anything changes from that, Corey?
I really don't, to be honest with you, because I think that Dan, from his body language on was it Monday, just he didn't really want to make this move, but I think he felt the pressure to make this move. I remember I was listening to Doc Walker on Monday, and Doc was like, you caved in pretty much. This is something you want to do, and you kind of listen to the crowd. But with that being said, I think it was time for a change. I think it was beyond time for a change, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And, we can amount that up to injuries, but there's some things that just there's no rhyme or reason for, and you can say that on the other side of the ball. It's just like ever since that first half in Kansas City, they were kind of complacent on what they were doing, and, they got patted on the back. They were like, oh, yeah, and then we got Mahomes. But just the vigor of what this defense is acting like. And let's be honest, this defense was not a very good defense last year. The only difference was from this point to last year, from last year to this year is +6, -5, and that's the turnover margin. The offense was staying on the field longer. They got 2 more turnovers than they did last year. This year, 2 less than they did last year. So that's a big thing. And people don't. I very rarely hear people talk about the difference in the turnover margin, and that kind of put a little gloss on which it was a very flawed defense at times. And we saw in the NFC Championship game, we saw against Detroit, how many turnovers did they have? That's right. They had five. I
Yep.
feel like the count from Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we haven't seen the defense force turnovers, and the offense has turned the ball over a little bit more too, and they're
Yep.
going they're going 3 and out in opportunities, and they're not converting those fourth downs. So it does put a lackluster defense in a worse of a spot, and that's I mean, and then to your original point, I mean, to me, I don't know what Dan Quinn's going to. I don't really know how he's going to change this with all the injuries and whatnot. And it's very reminiscent of 2023. The defensive coordinator gets the axe. Well, didn't get fired, and you're going up against Mike McDonald and the not Detroit Lions, but the Miami Dolphins. I cannot think this morning, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what changes, man, but uh, good for you. We'll see.
Yeah, like so I slightly disagree. I do think there can be some changes on what you can do. Because I was talking about this, I've said this for so many times and it's beating a dead horse at this point. But there's players on this team that could really do well in certain situations. Right? Like in our last game of the season that we had, we were expecting, because we had gotten intel from the team that played this team beforehand, that they didn't pass the ball once. And so we came in with a 6-man heavy front to be able to eliminate the run. Well, around like the second quarter, they throw a huge pass on us and get a touchdown. And we were expecting to boat race this team. And it was like almost an even score. We give up a kick return for a touchdown, and it's even score. And so the coaches, we get together, and we're like, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the plays that I drew up, the dime package. We're going to use those blitzes out of that. And then we're going to move Owen back up to safety, and we're going to be able to get off the field. They didn't score a point after that, after we made that transition at halftime. I think that similar circumstance can happen for Washington. It's just players like Bobby and Frankie need to be utilized to their strengths. And I think that's what Dan Quinn has preached on ever since he's gotten here, and ever probably since he's been a coach, is similar to Micah Parsons, where Micah was drafted as a middle linebacker. And I got in this argument with people about the argument between Jamin Davis and Micah, was that Micah is not a middle linebacker like Jamin Davis was when he first came in. Micah is literally an edge rusher. He's just being utilized everywhere. And when he is put at linebacker, he's a liability. So, like, Dan Quinn and company knew, okay, let's put him on the line. That's where his strengths are. If we're having him rush the passer, good things happen. And I think a similar sort of circumstance is with Bobby and Frankie, where they can be utilized down there. And you can add more DBs. You can add Jordan McGee onto the field in this sort of circumstance. But it all really relies on using a multi-front, having multiple guys standing up. So the offense has to think to themselves, okay, who's rushing? All these guys are standing up. Nobody has their hand in the dirt, and making them think a little bit more. With Washington's defense at this point, it's been very cookie cutter. You know exactly the 4-man front that they're coming down with. They're not blitzing off the edge of the slot. You know that what you're going to get is what you're going to get, the 4-man rush. If they use a multi-front, use Frankie and Bobby more so as rushers, I think that you could see a very quick turnaround in producing of pressure, because this secondary needs the help up front in order for them to be successful at this point, is my kind of thought process. I don't know if Dan Quinn can implement a multi-front over in Madrid after making a long trip, but it's something I think that could help and change with this football team. What do you think, Goody?
Yeah, it's really hard to say what you can expect to change in just a week's time. Um, and honestly, in a short kind of answer to that question, the only thing that I could really see giving it, a little bit of legs is the fact that the narrative around Coach Quinn is that everybody, will run through a wall for that guy,
Yeah.
right? So you got a situation where you have a coach that's obviously taking over the play calling as a defensive coordinator after a terrible outing from the beginning of the season. Now you have him, the man in front of the pack leading. I think that just gives the players a little bit more juice. They don't want to they don't want to upset the guy. They don't want to disappoint the guy. They want to make sure that he doesn't look like, hung out to dry, miles and miles away from the country. So the only thing I could think of with Dan Quinn being in that position for this game and I mean, really for the rest of the season, but I just think the guys don't want to let him down. So whatever it is that he does deploy, whether it's a completely different scheme or slight adjustments or just him being the one sending in the calls and meeting up with the guys on the sideline after each drive, I think that they're going to come out and they're just going to want to prove him right, make him look good. And, I think that's the only thing that's really going to come out of it because considering it's been, more than half of the season where the defense has not been able to get it together, get on the same page with Bill Witt. Having Dan Quinn in there is just another adjustment, a little breath of fresh air. And I think these guys really do, want to run through a wall for this guy. Maybe they felt that same way about Joe Witt. I'm not sure, but you don't hear that as much. Anybody that you hear talk about Coach Quinn, players on the team, players that used to play for him, players that want to play for him, they all say the same thing. They say this guy is an amazing person. He gets the best out of you, XYZ. So with him being in that position now this week and moving forward, the only thing I can really see is this guys would take it themselves like, I'm not going to mess this up. So maybe that's enough to get everybody to do their job at the very least, and that kind of complements everybody else on the defense, and it looks better.
Yeah, and I don't want to put too much into it, of course, but the team is looking for a spark in any sort of way. Right now, defensively, Washington is 25th in red zone conversion percentage on defense. They're 29th in points per game. They are 24th in rushing yards, 31st in passing yards, and they're 25th in third down conversion percentage. So they are bottom of the league in every statistical category. I respect Doc Walker a lot. I love his opinions. It gives a new edge and aggressiveness to things. It's just I think at this you couldn't continue on that path. Like you had to do something, and this was the only thing you could do, barring benching some players that are vitally important to your team. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, respect everything y'all said, but nothing's gonna change. I mean, did they get new personnel? Did they get a Micah Parsons? Did they get a Dorrance Armstrong back? Like I know they opened up people's windows, like Drake Jackson, Will Harris. They're not going to be out there on Sunday morning, so it's the same person. Actually, it's not even the same personnel. They got dudes off the street now because Amos is out. Other guys have been injured, put on IR, and get nicked up. So like they got a whole new players coming in the secondary, up front, in the middle. So look, do I think that they'll come out with more and not enthusiasm, but more like Goody said, like more like, hey, we cannot let Dan Quinn down. Like it's going to look bad on us, even worse on us, if Dan Quinn takes over for Joe Witt and we put out the same exact performance, if not worse. But on the flip side of that, I think the question can finally be answered, like, is it scheme or is it personnel? So if they come out and get 40, 50 dropped on, like, something like that, lose by 20-something, I think we could all put to bed that it's maybe partly the scheme, but it's clearly the personnel because no matter who's calling the plays, no matter who's on the field for them, they're getting torched. So I just feel like – and if you go back to, like, Dallas when Dan Quinn was there, look at their defenses. Like, yes, they had Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs before all the injuries, like, racked up, but they had a – good edge rusher, like above average edge rusher in DeMarcus Lawrence. And they have obviously Michael Parsons, who's the top 3 to 4 guy in the league rushing the edge. And their cornerbacks were allowed to pretty much be feast or famine. They're either going to get beat or they're going to jump a route and get a pick and get the ball back for the offense. And on top of that, they had Mike McCarthy and Dak running their offense, and they were racking up yards and points, putting the defense in better positions with leads so they can pin their ears back, get after the passer, and even play a little bit more aggressive as far as like jumping passes and stuff like that. So I just think that unless they get like a dominant edge rusher and a cornerback that can play a little bit more aggressive, a la maybe Trey Amos in his second year, I just think that the defense is what it is right now. And maybe they play a little bit better just from like what do they call it, like a dead cat bump or whatever, when a coach gets fired and the team comes out and plays a little bit more harder, beats a team they shouldn't beat for whatever reason. So I think they might get a dead cat bump and maybe in the first half or maybe for a quarter. But I just feel like just like this season, everything's going to regress to the means at some point. And unfortunately, I hope that they come out and play a little bit better. But then you'll have people talking about, why didn't Dan Quinn do this earlier? Defense turned it around. Why didn't they do this earlier? Da da da. So I just kind of feel like it's a lose-lose at this point, because if they come out and get 40 dropped on them again, it'll be like, well, it's clearly a personnel problem. It's Adam Peters' fault. Da 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 da. But if they come out and only give up 20 or less than 20, 21 points, whatever it may be, people are going to be like, well, why didn't Dan Quinn take over earlier if this was the case? And we all got to remember that while Dan Quinn is taking over for the plays and maybe like he does something different, whatever, da 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 da, he's still on the headset. He's still hearing what Joe Witt is calling. He's still in the game planning. So, like, it's not like Dan Quinn's going to come out there and be like, we're going to change everything up and do this now. Like, you can't even do that really mid-season. So
You can.
I feel like, I mean, you can tweak little things. You can't just run out a whole entire new like defense, like
you
3-3-5.
can. That's why Bobby's there. And like by using a multi-front attacking style, you're making it.
Wouldn't they have already done that by now? They'd be
No.
getting torched for 5 straight weeks. That's my point.
Bobby who? Bobby who?
Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Schmurder.
Bobby
That's the
who
only Bobby I know.
looks like an old man chasing after his wallet when he's chasing after these fast dudes.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying though.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that's why. That's what I'm saying is I want
Gotcha.
to take him out of that. I want to eliminate him from in that back. I want him purely going after the
right.
quarterback and getting
Well,
in the
my
back.
point is, if they've been getting rinse and repeat for the past 4 or 5 weeks, why wouldn't they not do that 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago?
And I think that's
After
why
the Atlanta game, why would they not do that? You know, like that's my
why
point.
the change was made, in my opinion, is like because the results were not coming and changes were not happening. And that's what I mean is like you can make changes to this to where it's not vastly impossible for guys to learn, because basically you're just changing what the linebackers and the D-line are essentially doing. The secondary stays the same for the most part. It's just saying just take the leash off and just go. We're not going to sit back and just get our asses reamed, dude. Like, we're going to be aggressive. And it's vastly different than changing coverages, changing match coverages, changing responsibilities in that sort of way. It's much more so of letting freedom roam and saying, just go make an impact, right?
But, okay, I understand that, but my point is, why would Dan Quinn not tell Joe Witt to do that? Is my point. So like, you can just swap Dan Quinn and Joe Witt out, but like, if DQ wanted that for his defense, he's the head coach. Joe Witt is his employee. So like, if Dan Quinn is that what Dan Quinn wanted, why would he not go to Joe Witt and tell him that?
Well,
why would he wait for him to be like, all right, I'm gonna take you out of the equation. Now I'm gonna do what I want to do. That just makes him look even more of kind of like, what are you doing type of thing.
Well, I think it's much more about a respect factor and confidence, especially with his coach he's been with for a while. I think that he's been grooming Joe Witt to be a head coach, defensive coordinator for a long time, and he's wanted to let him do his thing. And maybe it's much more so saying, I have confidence in you to get this right going, but if this continues down the trend, we're going to have to make a move. And I think that's ultimately what it came down to, and why Joe Witt was kind of like okay with it. But you do have to think for a second, maybe Joe Witt is so okay with it because he's like, I don't expect anything to change, and you guys will see.
And then that's what people were saying. They're like, there's a part of Joe Witt probably like deep down in the back of his mind, like, I hope they give up 40 because that means it's not my fault.
But
You know what I'm saying?
That
So
would be terrible.
I
That
did
would
want
be
to say this,
terrible.
though. I did want to say this. We do have to remember that I know that the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the whole season has been horrible on defense. But we do have to remember the offenses and the teams that we went against, they were elite. They're top of the league type of teams. Right now, Miami's 3-7. Yes, they have an electric offense. They know the Bills very well. They came in with a very good game plan. But even if they only gave up 20, I don't think you could easily just sit here and say, why hadn't Dan Quinn done this before? We do have to look at the opponent and say, well, this is a lesser opponent. That makes sense that things kind of adjusted and changed.
that makes sense, but also Atlanta's a lesser opponent, and they torched the shit out of them.
Not really. I think Atlanta's really good. It's just
They're
Atlanta for some
3-7,
reason
just
can't
like
go
us.
their own way. Well, the Kirk Cousins game kind of ruined things. I think it was 2 games in a row he played.
No, they put him in one game because the score was out of hand, and he started one game because Penix was injured.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's
It's
only
like-
played one game,
so it's
technically.
like basically 2 games.
No, they were already getting crushed in the one game. So,
But
like, they
this is
just
the
threw him in there.
question. This is a question I've always had, and I know hindsight's 20/20. If we kind of really, and we're being honest with ourselves, right? What improvements did this defense make over the offseason?
Yeah.
I'm just asking
And
into
that
Hall's
goes-
point about personnel and everything.
I feel like that's why all the eyes and the metaphoric guns are trained on Adam Peters right now, because it's like,
Right.
I understand what their game plan was. Like, all right, clearly our deficiency last year was stopping the run. Let's just get a bunch of run defenders in here, and let's get Laramie Tunsil to help out the offense. Let's get Debo to help out the offense. We're an offensive-driven team, just like they were last year. So let's lean into the offense, and let's improve. Hopefully their defense improves a little bit more and makes a couple stops here and there, a couple more turnovers here and there to get the ball back for the offense, and the offense do their thing. Problem is, like we all know, the offense has been injured off and on the entire season. So I feel like their entire plan of let the offense be the driver of the team obviously went into the toilet. And now the defense, like Corey talked about, I've been saying this for weeks. The difference between last year and this year is the offense was converting on third downs at a great rate, and they were converting on fourth downs at a historical rate. This year, they're like 20-something in third downs, and they don't even really go for it on fourth down anymore like that. So
19th on third downs.
Okay, yeah, so they went up a little bit more. So they were 20-something a couple weeks ago. So they're 19th in third downs now, and then fourth down, they've been going for a little bit more lately, but that's because they're always down in the game, so they have to go for it. And the time of possession thing is like a complete 180, I feel like. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Obviously, like Corey said, the defense has been bad going back to last year. You would have thought that, okay, a little bit of improvements here and there, get some run stoppers, and get the ball back for the offense. But obviously that plan has been gone out the window for weeks now with all the offensive players being hurt, Jaden being injured off and on. So I hope that there's, like, going back to the defense in this game, I hope that there's some type of changes. I hope that the guys, like, look at this as we cannot let DQ get the heat from the media after this. But I also feel like a lot of people will feel a little bit as fans, a little bit more relieved as, okay, maybe there's a scheme problem, but we know there's a personnel problem, because no matter who's calling plays, no matter who's on the field right now, they're just giving up points.
And okay, one more thing. This is the one thing I fault Adam Peters for. He gambled. He went to MGM. We got to take him. We got to get him back to Gamblers Anonymous and just go by the book. And I don't blame him for that. And I think that's where, like you said, the hired guns are pointing at him. This is a fault. He was trying to be aggressive.
And those same people, though, didn't have a problem him being aggressive. That's the
I understand that. And I'm just like, I get it. Like, you want to blame fault on it. I think it's a 3-step fault problem. It's part of the front office, it's coaching staff, and the players all together. Like, this is not just one person's issue and fault to bear. Just as much as it's Joe Witt's fault, as Dan Quinn's, as Bobby Wagner's, as Adam Peters, and you can insert anybody else in there. There's a whole lot of blame to go around, and it's just not one single solitary person. You're just trying to find a scapegoat at that point.
I will say this. On paper, what they did in the offseason was exactly what they needed to do. You know, we talked about they upgraded the run defense. They added another cornerback on the outside to kind of help with Mikey and Marshawn to kind of flip the field for what we had going into last season, right? So you can look at it, and they added Will Harris. But my kind of issue coming back to it all is they knew exactly what we were in and what we were doing every single play. And that comes down to scheme and how you're implementing these guys. Because if you remember early on, Joe Witt said offenses are now keying in on Frankie. They're taking him out of his element. And what that's doing is they're going at Frankie, and now they're putting all the stock onto Bobby. And they're putting Bobby out on an island, right? And that's what we've seen every single game is Bobby on an island trying to track these crossers. At some point, as a DC, you have to make it confusing. It can't be cookie cutter. You have to make the offense think and adjust as to what you're doing. And that's what ultimately my issue is on paper, we had Dorrance Armstrong. We had Dietrich Wise. We had Von Miller. We had good defensive tackles. We have the linebacker to be able to implement some pressure and to be able to get sideline to sideline, barring Bobby, of course. But I'm speaking of Frankie. And so it's like we had the pieces, but we were still getting abused. And it comes down to you being so predictable in every single thing that you're in that it seems like the opposing offenses know exactly what play we're in. It's like they're in our meetings and they're drawing these things up to say, all right, this exact time we're running this play, it's going to get him all day. And that's what you kind of saw versus Detroit.
I was
And
gonna say, you see when Dan Campbell called that play, and
Yeah.
eventually it was like, yeah, and then
it's way too
crossover
easy.
Jamison Williams touchdown.
You have to make it confusing, and especially in the NFL. That's why a lot of teams, they'll line up in like what looks like a cover 2 man, and then they'll actually be in cover 3 zone with the late adjustment post snap. And you're not seeing those type of things with Washington. It's very cookie cutter. And I understand that Joe Witt was trying to make it more simple because guys weren't getting the calls, they weren't understanding what's happening. But that's because you're in match zone. Guys are having to think in that sort of way. You're not making it to where it's post pre-snap, guys know exactly what they're doing. This is a completely different thing. And I know we want to blame Adam Peters and everything. The one thing, I'll go back to it. The one thing I'll blame Adam Peters for is that Terry McLaurin situation. As much as everyone wants to point fingers at Terry, that was, if you're banking on being an offensive team, then you probably shouldn't be playing chicken with your best offensive weapon, because that is the problem heading into the season.
Rehash this.
I would say, just to piggyback off that, what you're saying is with the defense and the style that it is, and there's like 2 layers to the cake where you can have a defense on the field that is kind of disguised and tricky for the coach to generate a call to make against it. And you could also, have a defense on the field that's tricky and disguised for the quarterback to be hesitant. So if the quarterback isn't hesitant and the coach is not tricked out by it, the offense is going to run straight through you.
Yes.
So I feel like this defense has failed to either A, confuse the quarterback, and B, definitely failed to confuse the offensive coordinator's game planning week in and week out. If we can get one of those, preferably the one where the quarterback is confused and we get a little bit extra time, people can get to the quarterback, DBs look better, we're getting pressure, sacks, all that good stuff, but we haven't been able to confuse the offensive coordinator or even the quarterback on the field. And that's where it's troubling.
And Goody, that's exactly what I mean by using the multi-standard front. Like, we can remember Bill Belichick's defense in New England. He kind of used this a lot, where they'd be standing up everyone in the line and you had no idea who was coming. Just create a little bit of hesitancy. That's all you're trying to do. Just create a little bit of confusion. And to what you said.
One last thing, I will say this. There's been a track record going back to obviously when he was in Dallas that Kyle Shanahan, the McVay kind of West Coast tree offenses just destroy this defense. And if you look around the league, a lot of people are running that Shanahan McVay kind of style of offense because people are plucking from their coaching staff as coordinators and whatnot. Well, Mike McDaniels is a McVay Shanahan kind of disciple. So again, as much as I want to say there's going to be changes, we have a track record of multiple games, multiple series, multiple down and down outs of this offense beating this defensive scheme. So at the end of the day, you can change it up, you can this, you can do that, but this is my question, and y'all can answer this if you want to. Is this a Dan Quinn scheme problem? Because again, we go back to Dallas where they were giving up hella yards against these offenses, but the flip side was they were getting turnovers, and they had an offense that could put up points that kind of insulate the defense. So is this a Dan Quinn scheme problem, where they need to implement a whole new scheme next year, or is this like you said, a personnel problem where it's we need to get the dominant edge and the dominant corner and let the defense go to work?
I think that what you're saying is absolutely right. What they have a track record against McVay kind of coaches that run roughshod on them. They can do whatever they want on them, and they give up a lot of points. We can go back to that Dallas playoff game where Green Bay just blow the doors off of them defensively, right? But you could go into it saying they know what we like to do. This McVay offense, this Shanahan offense does wonders on us. Let's confuse them a little bit. Let's change up into something that we haven't done before. Let's do some different things to confuse them just a little bit. And once they make the adjustment to what we have confused them on, go back to what we were originally doing just to create more of a logjam to make them adjust again. It's that chess match between the two. So I would say adjust. You have to be the aggressive type in adapting and doing things that they're not going to be pregame. Pregame, because to be honest, every single game we started out in a hole, and that's because their script, their play script that the first 15 plays or whatever it is, all of it's been working all season. At some point you got to confuse them. They can't just literally know exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, I would say
So,
like even if you look at the teams that played us and pretty much, you know, put up numbers on us, when you look at those offenses in other games and other weeks, they don't look that good.
Right.
You know, they're not moving at that pace. They're not cutting it up, and that's really the struggle because you watch, you know, I mean, I guess the Chiefs. You can even include the Chiefs. But the Falcons, the Bears, like when they're playing other teams, they're not getting these wide open players and just moving down the field at ease. And that's what you kind of I struggle with watching. I'm like, damn, like when they played us, they were just throwing it here, there, getting down the field, not even sweating. And any other week, you know, they're playing other teams. You see them actually struggling to be productive as an offense. So that's a little painful. That's a little painful.
You're right. Corey, do you have anything to say before we have to start pre-gaming for this?
Yeah,
this
the petty person in me from last week, they were talking about Dan Campbell and how he's such a great offensive play caller and all this good stuff. And I started to say, and I said this, I said, he should have looked good against us.
Yes.
He should have. That's why he took over the play call.
Yes.
Now,
Right.
we might see John Morton talking a little bit tomorrow night up in Philadelphia because this is a better defense. So, but yeah, I mean everything y'all said, it's I mean, I just don't know how we dig out of this hole at this point in the season, because there's a lot of issues. And I mean, what Hall brought up, and I love aggressive Hall. I've never seen Hall this aggressive, so I
It's
appreciate
usually
it.
in the it's usually in the mornings.
Yeah, I love it. I mean,
before
this
my mind
brother's
is altered,
he
basically.
is he's punching right now, and I'm like, there's a lot more questions that we could dive on this onion with Dan Quinn and the ineptitudes of defense. I'm not going to touch it because Kyle said we got to go to pregame, but that's just something for you to chew on early this morning with your
So I
bacon
got-
and your coffee.
You're right, Corey.
One
because
last
I
thing.
said this. I said this when he got hired that their defense was predicated on the pressure generated by Micah. We don't have a Micah Parsons type of
Yeah.
rusher. So what are we going to get? Sorry, Hall.
And one last thing I will say, that's where I do think that they'll get a bump and more of like we'll see a different change. Dan Quinn has a track record of calling defenses. He's a defensive coordinator that became a head coach. So he's going to know, like, okay, we can make this adjustment. I know how to string together different type of plays, different type of formation sets, whatever it may be. So I do think in that sense that they will get a bump and more of like, you'll see a change in that where it's like, okay, he's definitely coordinating the defense better than what Joe Witt has because Joe Witt was new to this going into last year. Dan Quinn has years and years and years of experience of calling plays, calling defenses. So I do think we'll see a change in that, but just like overall, like huge changes, that's where I'm kind of like, yeah.
I got you. Now, to what some message that was sent to us by Mike Puckett, who is actually in Madrid, Spain. He wanted to say this message on the pod before we get into this game. He said, last night at the rally was amazing to see the diversity from different countries that are Commanders fans. I met people from Germany, Estonia, France, Japan, England, Australia, and one place I can't pronounce. None of us knew each other, but it seemed like somewhere in spirit we're all connected our whole life. Everyone cheered, sang, and drank like there was no tomorrow. The atmosphere was from another world, and I'm so proud to be a part of the Commander family. Cheers to you, us, and to them. And I'm glad that you and your wife are having a good time. I'm glad everyone in Madrid is drinking away like there's no tomorrow, because right now Washington is playing like there is one, which goes into our game plan for tomorrow going against Miami, Corey. Who has to have a big game tomorrow in order for Washington to be in a position to win? And what would your game plan be against Miami?
We're going to pray to the gods that Tua gets knocked out early, right? That's going to be the first thing. And I mean, gosh, I think anybody on this defense.
Corey, does it even matter if Tua is out? I'm
That's
being
great.
honest.
Look,
I couldn't
Steve, stop. Look,
I couldn't name their backup, but I'm sure he'd probably come in and
y'all
Isn't
are
it
acting
Skyler?
very brand new. Like Mr. Hope and positivity
no, he went to
over
Pittsburgh
here
in the offseason.
is tripping. Kyle is tripping. So, you know, when I saw that post about the defense last week, I said, I know everything is over, and we just had to keep on feeling through like we're Ray Charles. Like, I knew everything was over with. Let him grin. Let him grin. He knows it's over with right now for 2025. But, man, I just need somebody on this defense. I need somebody to be a Deron Payne and act like you give a crap. Like that's like I need that. Just don't get ejected this time.
Yeah.
But I need you to act like you give a crap. Whether that's whether that's Bobby Wagner and them chaining them up and just having them go. And we saw success in the wild card round with him hitting the A gap and everything like that and blitzing. So I need somebody on defense to step up. I'm not gonna call out anybody. I'm gonna call out everybody. See, that's a Dan Quinn phrase right there. Don't call out anybody. Call out everybody. That's
There
what
you
I'm
go.
gonna say.
Tell the
Yep.
truth
Corey Quinn.
Saturdays with
Yeah,
Corey.
you got- watch your mouth now. Don't call me Corey Quinn now.
What about you, Hall?
I would say that. So there was a quote that came out. I guess the Miami center. They asked him about about Deron Payne, and he said, "Oh, I'm so happy Deron Payne is out. The dude's giving me fits throughout my entire career." And so basically saying that like Deron Payne, if he was going to be in his game on Sunday, he was going to whoop his ass down in and down out. So I would say that I think they said Johnny Newton is going to be the one replacing
Correct.
Deron Payne. So I would say the combination of Kinlaw, my man Big Kinfolk, and Johnny Newton, they got to have together a plus great game to push that pocket in from the middle, show that center like, hey, even though DP ain't out here, Johnny Newton is DP light or can be DP light. Kinlaw, get after him, do what you do, push that pocket from the middle. Obviously, Tua is a kind of a smaller in stature quarterback. Push the pocket from the middle, make sure he can't see over the top of the lineman coming at his face. And yeah, if you can get after, obviously we know if you get after Tua, push the pocket from the middle, he's going to throw some picks, give the ball to us. So I would say Kinlaw and Johnny Newton got to have a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, they got to make Tua look like Mike Reed in the locker room in high school. Have a bunch of O linemen coming at his face. Before you go,
Hey, yo.
Goody, I wanted to add the stats for this game. So Miami altogether, I'm gonna list Miami stats and then I'm gonna list Washington's before I go to you, Goody. Miami on offense in red zone, they're 15th. In points per game, they're 25th. In rushing yards, they're 23rd. In passing yards, they're 24th. In third down conversion percentage, they're 18th. On defense, they're 8th in red zone, 24th in points per game, 26th in rushing yards, 13th in passing yards, and 23rd on third downs. Washington's offense is 2nd in the red zone, 22nd in points per game, 7th in rushing yards, 26th in passing yards, 19th on third down. On defense, we're 25th in the red zone, 29th in points per game, 24th in rushing yards, 31st in passing yards, and 25th on third down. With that being said, what would your game plan be and who needs to have a big game?
Oof. Yeah, so I got to go with what Hall said. The interior defensive linemen have to attack, have to get north and south, straight up the middle, get to an office spot, preferably, force him out to the right side because he's a left-handed throwing quarterback. If you can generate pressure from the center and from the right side of the defense to flush, Tua out to his right, that could cause some mayhem for us and get us kind of in a momentum and just kind of aggressive and attacking and make the offense play on their heels. That would be very key. And also, I want to go back. I mean, we've been kind of banging the table about this all season because this is how we kind of anticipated our identity being as a team this year. But the running game, I feel like we should just get out there and run the ball. Chris Rodriguez is healthy. McNichols is healthy. Like, this is probably our healthiest unit, and besides the O-line, really. So I want to see those guys running. Running back by committee, switch it up, run the ball 3 times in a row. I don't care. Run it 4 times in a row. Just keep pounding and grounding. Get these guys tired. Then you could mix in Mariota with the RPO, and he could, kind of take advantage of the defense overcommitting to the run because, if we stay committed to the run, they're obviously going to be kind of geared towards that. So you could easily have Mariota sneak out on a couple of those RPOs. He could even hold it and, get a nice little slant in, a little fade. But I think the interior pass rush, Kinlaw, Johnny Newton need to come out and just really punch him in the nose out the gate, get that interior pressure, get Tua off his spots. And I really want to see like a heavy dosage of running on offense. We don't really have too many people we could throw to on the outside anyway. Let's just kind of really, make our statement with the run game.
Yeah, for me personally,
Would you say their ranking for rushing ranking was for offense?
for Miami?
Yeah.
For Miami's offensive rushing yards are 23rd. They average 107 rushing yards per game.
That's crazy. Considering Devon Achane goes ham week
Well,
in and week out, for
you
them
got
to
to
be
think
23rd is like crazy.
a lot of his fantasy
I know
production
they're like
also
swing passes.
yeah, swing passes. You're
Yeah,
absolutely
swing
right.
passes.
Getting to the outside, which has been Washington's issue ever since Chicago. But my game plan going into this would be implementing the 3-3-5 multi-front. Three defensive linemen. I would have Johnny Newton, Javon Kinlaw, and Von Miller or Jacob Martin on the line. I would bring Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner down to the line. That way you'd have 5 up front. And then I'd have Jordan McGee there as middle linebacker. I would bring Tyler Owens down, acting as an in-the-box linebacker with 4 DBs behind him, with Quan Martin, with Jonathan Jones, Noah Igbenogany, and Mikey Samerstill. And screw with this offense and be able to get that and use stunt plays to be able to get into the face of Tua, like Hall talked about, getting pressure in his face, using those stunts with their DTs to be able to create that pressure on them, confusing them just a little bit more. But I think for Washington at this point on offense, we're second in the red zone, which is fantastic to hear, right? But the issue being is we're 22nd in points per game, which means our red zone trips are few and far between, but we're effective when we get down there. We just got to get down there in order to get those touchdowns. But that seems to be the hard issue. So for me in this game, Washington offensively, we have to have big plays. And so the person that needs to have a big game, in my personal opinion, is Jalen Lane. Like, you were selected in the 3rd round. I love this kid. He showed the deep ball ability last week. I know Miami on defense, they're 13th overall in passing yards per game. But we need to open the box up a little bit. We need to get aggressive. We need to force the ball downfield. This offense is at their best when they're able to stretch north and south. Well, it's about time that we start utilizing those guys. And so for someone that needs to have a big game, it's Jalen Lane. And then from there, the running game can really branch off and do well. If you're able to get those big plays, then the running that takes that defender out of the box. You could run the ball a little bit better, a little bit more space for your running backs to work in with Chris Rodriguez, McNichols, and Bill. And I think that that's probably the best avenue for this offense is stretching the field north and south and then hitting them up the mouth, so to speak, and be able to.
Sounds like we're all saying that Cliff needs to have a good game as well.
Absolutely, he does. I can't even.
I would say for Cliff just to keep it simple. You know, try not to do too much. Just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. We have 3 running backs that are very capable of carrying the load. If you mix them in and out throughout the whole game, everybody's still going to have their juice. They're not going to be worn down. And ultimately, you're wearing down the defense if you're having success on the ground. And then you sprinkle in Mariota where he can, sneak out for a couple of big gashes. I mean, just keep it simple. Run the ball. You don't got to worry about all the tricky and fancy stuff. Just stick to it. Put the ball on the ground and just run the ball. Run the ball.
I would like to see some running back screens. I know we do a lot with the wide receivers and everything, but if they're going to be overly aggressive against our offense, that's something that would like to see them just utilize a little bit more. I think Bill could be him and McNichols have been crucial in those getting the ball in the backfield and creating some big opportunities for us. Corey, do you have to get out of here, brother?
I got a few more minutes.
Okay. Let's answer some fan questions before we do our predictions for this show. And Corey, before you go, if you want to give your prediction, just let me know when it's time. Yeah. The first question, Corey, is from Deluxe. NFL football is at 9:30 a.m. What are you eating? It is Miami bagels and lox, salmon and omelet. What are you eating at home? Fish tacos. What are you going to do after the game? Fan routines have to change too.
I'm going to get up, turn on my computer, turn on my iPad, hop on to YouTube, and probably get me a glass of orange juice and get ready to rock and roll. That's about it. I'm boring, man. Yeah, I don't eat breakfast most mornings. So I don't eat until about 11 o'clock.
There you go. Yeah, I Wawa breakfast sandwich or something before on the way to church probably, but I'll be at church. It won't be anything crazy, but you'll see me praying. I'm gonna try my best not to look at anything because I get Twitter notifications. But I'm not a huge breakfast guy. Typically, I'm eating my lunch at 9:30, 10 a.m. anyway.
Yeah, I'm not a big breakfast person either. I mean, I wake up maybe I'll just take some of whatever I give my daughter in the morning for food wise, some strawberries or a waffle or something. But not a big breakfast person. I don't even think I have breakfast food in the house really, other than waffles. So I'll probably just turn the TV on. Maybe if I have like a beer, maybe crack a beer, drink a beer early in the morning. Good luck beer for the guys. But
You're
other than
insane.
that, it'll be 3:30 in Madrid, so it's all right.
Yeah, that's crazy. I beer that early, dude. Oh my gosh. What about you,
Nah, I
Goody?
probably won't. Courtney probably kick my ass.
So I guess that's four of us. Like I'm not much of a big breakfast guy. I don't really eat breakfast. If I eat like in midday, afternoon, I'll get something in. But I could tell you, I'll definitely have a cup of coffee, ready to go, hot and steaming, and just can't wait. I've woken up a lot of these international games, and I'm kind of fired up. I know a lot of people don't really like them, but me getting football Sunday started like that early is a
I love
gift.
it.
So this is gonna be a first time for me. It's my team on TV. So I'm just fired up. I'm just fired up to take it all in. I would start my grill up, but I got to tend to the grill, so I can't do both and watch the game and stuff like that. So I'll just be posted up on the couch with some coffee until the kids come out of the room and start, bouncing around the house, and got to kick them out and stuff like that. But we'll see how it goes. It'll be coffee for me.
Yeah, man. Church. Corey, can any player flip the fan narrative by turning their individual play around and finishing strong? There are some strong opinions out there about Martin, Sinnott, Connerly, Badass, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all could. I just said something about our elder statesman, the senior citizen, Bobby Wagner. I think he can change his. Yeah, I know, grit your teeth, Kyle. You know it's true, but I mean, I think he can. I think that anybody on this defense can. Quan has been raking through the coals, and how can you not rake him through the coals after what he's shown in his tackling ability?
Yeah.
And I think this one guy has gotten an unfair judgment cast upon, and it's Johnny Newton. If he can come out here and actually get some playing time and show what he's worth, why they drafted him in the second round last year, I think you would shut up a lot of people, because we saw it with Luke McCaffrey this year. That people were talking about, well, why is he in there? I mean, I think there was some blowhard on a local radio station who was yelling about him being the youngest in charge and everything, and saying, what is Luke McCaffrey doing here? Why is he here? He's a fifth-round pick, and why is he being drafted? Look, he shut everybody up because he became a threat on special teams, and we have seen the loss there. I think on offense, your boy Jalen Lane, because people are starting to go after him,
Yep.
and I think they're forgetting that the man's a rookie. And he really hasn't had those opportunities. And then when your offensive coordinator is always out thinking himself, you have those problems there. So I think that old man Bobby and young man Jalen could change the narratives with some good performances.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right about Johnny Newton. Obviously, with Javon Kinlaw and Daron Payne, hasn't gotten all that much opportunity to showcase himself. And when Johnny Newton is doing his job, it's not a wow play. It's a 1 to 2 yard gain where he's able to clog things up. But the issue has been, since Chicago, they've gone to the outside. They've gone east and west, and that's more so on the linebackers being able to get over there, and the DBs being able to fill. And that's why some of those guys are getting crapped on a little bit because of the rushing yards. But honestly, sometimes it's not even on them. It's an issue that our football team had. For me personally, I said it before, Jalen Lane, of course. But if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, for me personally, I think it's Quan Martin more than anybody. Quan Martin ended the year last year with 2 banged-up shoulders and performed very well against Detroit and later into the season. And that's somebody that this season has taken a big step back.
So what you're saying is he has to just get his shoulders banged up again so he can come out and
Basically.
play with his hair on fire.
Well, no, he did that. He did that on Sunday, and he banged up his shoulder, but unfortunately he didn't bring the guy down with him. He just ran in with him. But he's got to do a better job. And I'm sure they all know that. The whole team knows that. But that's one player that could really change things by actually doing his job well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple players that can change the narrative. Obviously, it starts tomorrow. Come out and play to the ability that we all thought going into the season that you could. You guys have named a couple of the players. I think another guy is Mikey Samerstill that can kind of change the narrative, because coming off of last year, everyone thought, we got a rising star in the secondary for our team. You saw what he did in Detroit. You saw what he did from the Bengals game on like last year. So he was the guy that everyone coming into the season was like, yo, that's a rising star right there, blah, blah, blah. And then this year it's just been a complete 180.
I mean,
Obviously going back to
he still leads the team in turnovers. You know, he still has that knack
yeah.
for the ball. So
Yeah,
I,
but he's also you can
yeah,
go
yeah,
to multiple plays throughout the game where he's just getting beat like a drum. And I
yeah.
know it goes back to him going back inside and playing the slot and got to get used to playing that
You
again.
knew how my head was
I
turning.
know, I saw your face. I know. But I would say this though, him going back to the outside, I think he can probably change the narrative. He can go back to the Mikey and Samuel that we all know and love. We can stop making fun of his fits coming into the game, and we can start talking about his play
so bad.
on the field. But I mean, I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, I think that they got to do it consistently though. You can't just come out against Miami, play well, and be like, oh, the narrative's changed. You got to play down the stretch. You got to keep stacking to the end of the season. But we also know that every season is a different season. So like just like last year when Mikey was getting talked about as like a rising star, it's complete opposite this year. So even if they change the narrative this year, you still got to go back next year, put the work in, and just keep stacking to get your name out there again.
I got you, Corey. I know you got to get out of here. It's like you want to do your prediction and then for the game, and then give your social media handle, brother.
Yeah, the 2.5 point line stinks. So I'm going to channel my inner Kyle and give good hope, good vibe for everybody. The Commanders will be eating lox and bagels and empanadas and all this stuff and drinking out of the river because somehow Kyle and I have prayed very hard at church. And we're going to play Waymaker and everything like that. See, you didn't know it. See, I do. I got you, brother. I got you. Don't mess with me now. I like the Mandisa version of it. And we're going to sip honey from the rock, and they are going to win. I got 2 for you there, Kyle. We're going to win the game. Oh, Lord, 24-20. And Tua may not know where he's at afterwards. Blessings and peace. Check me out on the Warpath YouTube. I'll be there live at 9:30 CP time. That's Corey's personal time, so it might be about 9:45. And then check me out, Sanchez 405. I've always got some smart ass comment that I'm making. And Hall, I always get a like from Hall because he's like, Corey's being devious out here. But
that's me. You give me a good laugh on Twitter.
Yeah, hey, man, you know I'm trifling. But I appreciate y'all as always. Goody, it's nice to meet you, brother. Hey,
Pleasure.
Raise hell, boys.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Corey,
sir.
have a
Appreciate
good blessed one, brother. And make
too.
sure if you guys are looking for like a play-by-play to watch the game with it, Corey is the one to go to during the games to just actual commentary, and it's really, really good. If you're anybody like out of market that can't get the game, I'm sure you will be able to tomorrow. But just saying, Corey's the one to go check out, man.
Good to know. Good to know.
Have a good one, brother.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. So now let's wrap this up by giving we have one more fan question before we do predictions, if you guys got some time here. The last question we have is from Deluxe. Goody, did you answer the last one?
What was the question?
It was about who needs to have a strong finish to have the narrative changed about them. Did you want to answer that real fast?
Strong finish to regain the fans kind of love and all that stuff.
Yeah, for how much that's worth.
Ooh, all right, strong finish for whoever's left on this roster. Let's see.
Just finish the season out unhealthy. That's what I'm saying. Jeez.
Yeah, right. That would win my heart over. I'm not gonna pick Mikey because I do feel like even though he has fallen, had to step back, I feel like the whole team in general has had to step back, but he's still able to generate turnovers as he showed with the 3 picks. But I'm gonna go with Mariota. I'm gonna go with Mariota. He's the backup to your to our prized quarterback. So if he's going to remain the backup here moving forward, which is not even a certainty, right? Because he's probably still looking for a starting job. But I would say after Mariota showed up last year and came in and balled out for us, he performed kind of wishy-washy this year. He got maybe a couple wins or 1 win for us this year. But I want to see him get back to the sure thing as a backup quarterback. So when he comes out tomorrow, and obviously he's had plenty of time to prepare for this. He's been in and out this season with Jaden being out often. I want to see Mariota go out and show out and have a game where fans can be like, yeah, that's my backup quarterback without even questioning anything. I know the team speaks highly of him, saying like, we don't really care. Like when Mariota's out there, we're ready to roll. We saw a side of that last year for sure. This year a little bit, but I want to see that stamped again. I want to see that Mariota is our backup quarterback. So I would say Mariota.
And I would be willing to bet that we're going to see a little bit more under center this week. Cliff Kingsbury had a very interesting quote regards to John Keim asked him about being under center and shotgun and pistol. And he talks about what Jaden likes to do. They kind of cater things to what Jaden wants to do. And so I thought that was very telling. And so maybe we'll see a little bit more under center this week with Mariota. But I also want to say I thought it was freaking hilarious that the team was practicing while listening to Daddy Yankee's Gasolina.
Yeah.
Daddy Yankee is performing at halftime for this game. And if you guys know the lyrics to Gasolina, I would highly recommend to look them up in English so you kind of know what they're saying in the song. And so you think that you're practicing listening to Fill Me Up With Your Gasoline. I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to have a field day with that. But the next question, last question from Deluxe before we get into our predictions. He asks, Hall, who leads the team in receptions and yards this week, and who leads in rushing yards?
Rushing yards. I know they named Chris Rodriguez a captain, so it seems like they're going to lean into him a little bit more this week. So I would say that as much as I want my man Bill to take over that role again and get back to what he was doing against LA and against New York and then whoever else, I do think that they're going to lean a little bit into C-Rod, kind of let him loosen the defense up, do his thing, and then that'll make way for Bill to hit the outside gaps. It was cutback thing. So I'll say Chris Rodriguez will lead them, barring that he doesn't bang his shoulder up or something like that again. He'll lead the team in rushing and receiving. I would say – we got so many banged up receivers. I'm trying to think. I think it'll be the Jalen Lane coming out party. I do think that he'll get like a deep pass, maybe like up the seam or down the sideline, showcase his speed that we all know that he has. And I think Mariota is like either number one or top of the league in pushing the ball down the field as far as like down in and down out. So he's going to push the ball down the field. Hopefully Cliff will dial up some stuff that stretches the field, not just like the little crossers or the horizontal passing game. So hopefully Cliff will push down the field, and I'll say Jalen Lane.
Crossing routes, man.
Yeah, I would love some cross routes too, but I'll say Jalen Lane. Maybe he takes a crosser, gets open over in the middle, and takes it down the sideline. But I'll say Jalen Lane ends up with a 55 to 60-yard receiving game, and he's the leading receiver.
And coming into this game, the Dolphins are 26th in rushing yards per game, giving up on average 139 per game, and 13th in passing yards on average 207 yards per game, which would be around about normal for Washington passing-wise, that 200 mark. For receptions, I do think it'll be Zach Ertz leading the way with receptions, just having that connection with Mariota, kind of moving the chains, middle of the field type of stuff. But rushing yards, passing yards in particular, wouldn't surprise me if it's Chris Moore or Jalen Lane just stretching the field, trying to navigate things north and south. In regards to rushing, I think Hall is right on what the game plan should have always been, and that is hammer them down, because you have to think about last season, it was kind of like this, where they would come out with B-Rob. B-Rob would really beat the door down in terms of running style, just running up. It obviously wasn't getting much, but it was kind of like that bruising type of back. And then they would use Eckler off of that in those kind of to gain extra yardage. And that's how it should be utilized in this game. Use C-Rod early, allow him to beat them up a little bit, get that in the between the tackles, kind of those hard physical runs, and then use Bill and McNichols to kind of use that electricity, so to speak, and be able to get you some extra yardage. So I would say that the rushing attempts should go to C-Rod, and I think that Dan Quinn, his presser, even said, Deluxe, that hot hand. He said it like 3 times, hot hand, the hot hand. That would go towards Chris Rodriguez getting the actual carries more than anybody. But I would think that Bill or McNichols able to rip one off that could easily tip the scales. If Mariota is leading this team in rushing yards this week, we're in a bad way.
That's what I was gonna say. I hope it's not Mariota leading the rushing yards.
They're 26th in rushing yards, and if Mariota is the one leading you, it's a very bad situation.
Yeah,
unless he rips off like a 70-yard like little like keeper.
He's not hurdling anybody, Hall.
Let's hope not.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of answered it right before we get into the Mariota point, but you feel like because Chris is expected to have a heavier load this week, I still want to say leading rushing would be Bill. I feel like Chris Rodriguez is going to have success on the ground, punching 5 yards, 6 yards, break a 10, 12, just chiseling away. Jared McNichols in the mix, obviously, getting those, 5, 4, 7, 8 yard runs per attempt. But I do feel like we're due for another Bill kind of getting out in the wild. If we're able to kind of generate this run game the way that it could be, that's how it would work, right? You would have Chris Rodriguez beating it up, Jerry McNichols kind of going left to right, gashing them, and then just have the defense kind of unsure of where we're going with the run game, and then you have Bill break off for a few big ones. So I would say Bill as the leading rusher, just off of optimism. And is it leading receiving yards or receptions?
It's both.
Both. Yards and receptions.
That would
This
be
is tough.
caveat on typically if you had a Justin Jefferson type that has 10 targets, 10 receptions for 140 yards, but this offense really does not work that way.
Yeah. So it's hard. I don't even really know who's on. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Jalen Lane. Let's breathe that. Let's breathe that life. Let's get this guy. Let's make sure his hands are good. Right. Get him 5-6 catches. 5-6 catches. Call it 87 yards. He's leading the team in receiving and receptions. That would be lovely.
My man. Absolutely love to hear it. Now let's get into our predictions for this game and how it's going to go. It's going to be fun. I'll say that. And hopefully we're able to get, because it felt like it's been an eternity since we've been able to be happy, which it's crazy to even think that given with how great of a season we had last year. But Hall, how do you think this game's going to play out?
Yeah, I'm hoping for a good, exciting game, similar to the Colts and the Falcons game last week, where it was going one way and then it goes back the other way and kind of swinging back and forth. Obviously, I don't hope it's like that close going into overtime, but I do think that they get the dead cat bump, as in Joe Witt is not calling the plays anymore. Kind of like a new defensive coach, new defensive coordinator type of thing, where they come out with the hair on fire. They want to play for DQ. The defense does it. And I think that they force at least one turnover on Tua. I think Devon Achane is going to do his thing. He's going to get his yards. Like, it's hard to stop a guy like that. Top 3 to 5 back in the league.
Oh, real quick, can I say something? I just remember what I wanted to say in the transition to this question. To Goody's point about the rushing, all season long, it's been predicated on our defense giving up points early. Like, we've been put in that hole, so we've been taken out of the running of the football. So if we were able to run the football well in this game, it's all predicated on the defense actually being able to get stops and forcing field goals. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Hopefully the defense will – they're probably going to bend because due to all the injuries, the random guys coming in and out of the lineup off the street and whatnot, they're going to bend. Hopefully they don't break when they get down to the red zone. Hopefully they're not giving up explosive plays to Achane or Jalen Waddle, which I have him on my fantasy team, so I kind of want him to ball out. But he can ball out but not win the game. But
I'm starting Tua this week.
Hey, you got to hedge it. Hedge your bets.
I do. I'm just whatever, man.
But no, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it comes down tight game the last 2-3 minutes of the game, fourth quarter. I think that it's been a long 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it's been. We finally get back on the right side of things. The good guys pull it out. Like I said, a close game. I think that Washington will win it, high-scoring game, 27-25.
Yeah, and like all season long, it seems like yesterday I talked about this, like week 3 it was, heading into that game, saying like last season we had a lot of big plays given up on defense, and that was kind of the thing they had to eliminate, and we haven't seen that this season, so that secondary could be really good in terms of what we did against the Giants. And then ever since then, we have just been getting beaten like a dead horse, and it sucks to say, but the big plays are where Washington has to eliminate. I mean, every single time they've gone against these good teams, big plays have happened. Well, Miami is a good offense. They're very well structured. But if you're able to force Tua to do dink and dunk and to force it to be difficult to get down the field, you actually have a pretty good chance in this football game. And that's what my big predicate thing is just making sure you're confusing them enough to where it is dink and dunk, to where it's not like they can run the same play 3 times in a freaking row and be able to get a touchdown on you. It's got to be difficult for them. I do think Washington is going to look better defensively. Going against this offensive group, they're explosive, but they're not like the others that we've played against. Hopefully things have changed a little bit in order to cause confusion. And I do think that the offense under Mariota has a sort of calmness and comfortability with it. Not like it's better than Jaden or anything like that, but it's much more calm, cool, and collected. They seem to really know what they need to do to get going. And so I think in that sort of way, I think that we could see Washington actually play with a lead early on in this game. It's just, can we keep the floodgates back, and how long, and can we create separation, right? And that's kind of been the issue so far this season. So I would say it's going to be very similar to the Kansas City game. It's just all predicated on if the offense in the first half is able to actually put up some points. And I think that Washington's going to be able to do that. They're going to get some splash plays. And hopefully Matt Gay is not tasked with having to tie this thing up late in the game for us to not end in a tie like we did the last time that we played in Europe, which was that the last time we played in Europe with Matt Jones with that fumble and the missed field goal?
Against the Bengals. That's
the
exactly
Bengals,
what it
right?
was. 2016, I
I'll
want to say
never
it was.
forget that. That was
You remember when Gavin was just cursing at us in my apartment at the end of that game, like y'all tied with the Bengals. It's like, dude, I'm about to punch this dude in the freaking mouth right now, dude. Right. So we can't have that sort of ending, right? So thank you to everybody who's tuned in so far. Thank you to
You
Reds.
didn't get Goody's prediction, bro.
Oh, my bad, Goody. I'm sorry.
That's all good.
Thinking about that game got me all messed up.
I'll make it quick. So I have basically.
I started thinking about punching Gavin. Was like, all right, we're done.
Washington's going to score first. Okay. How that's going to happen, I'm not sure. Maybe we just take the kickoff and go down the field like a normal NFL offense and get some points on the board.
Right.
Whether it's a touchdown or a field goal, I'm not sure. I do have Matt Gay hitting 3 field goals in this game, based on my final score prediction. But I'm also going to say that the defense is going to generate an interception. Tua is going to throw a pick. Who's going to receive it? I am not sure. Maybe Quan, maybe Mikey Sanders still. We shall see. And I also have a slight feeling that there may perhaps be a pick 6 involved in this as well from Tua. And that's what's going to really give us the edge, considering that in my prediction, we score first. We eventually get Tua to throw a pick or a pick 6. We go up pretty bulky right there early on. And we're also going to have a turnover on downs. Our defense is going to have a turnover on downs against Miami at some point in this game. How that's going to happen, we shall see. Let that fall where it may. And then the final score prediction I have is 23 Washington, 10 Miami. That's my prediction. That is my prediction.
Bo Brown said, respectfully, y'all are not beating us. 23-17 Dolphins. Respect to you, Bo, for coming on.
I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost the game. Now that we're out to some juggernaut, we're like, yeah, we're going to smash them.
Oh, I will say this, actually. The only thing that really gets me confident,
40-0, bro.
is the fact that Tyreek Hill is not playing. The Dolphins weren't even doing that well, even when he was rostered and playing active. But if he was active for this game, I would be extremely scared for this defense and what they would do. So that's another boost of confidence there.
They still have Jalen Waddle, though.
No, I know. But if they had both of them out there and A-Chain.
You know what the bad thing is about this? It's going to be like some bum random Malik Washington that's going to kill us tomorrow or something
he's
like that.
He's not a random. He's actually pretty good. But I would say I'd be very nervous against this offense if Darren Waller was playing. When Darren Waller was playing for Miami, they were very good in the red zone, and they were getting some very good chunks of but right now he's injured, I'm pretty sure. And that's the one piece with tight end Washington hasn't had really a remedy for ever since Will Harris was out, where he's now practicing. He's going to be activated soon. Hopefully he gets back here very soon in order to help this football team. I know that the draft people that want us to have the lowest, like Nick Akridge, the lowest draft pick possible, I know that you don't want to hear that, but you can't go in saying we want to lose games, man. I know we all want Averill Reese. I want Averill Reese too, man. But you can't live like that. All right, everybody. He said Bo Brown said we're trash, but y'all have too many injuries. It's like the Spider-Man meme. We're both pointing at each other.
He's not lying here. He's not lying.
Yeah,
they are trash, and we do got a lot of injuries. Ha ha ha.
Stupid. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you've made it this far, you're a freaking champion. If you want to add your predictions onto the stream, we'd love to be able to see what you guys have to say and what you think. And look, it's hard to find hope in this sort of time with Washington, but I'll always say this. It's always a better Sunday when you still get to watch them play. It's as embarrassing, as bad as it has been. I'd rather this than in the middle of March where you're just looking at draft prospects. You know, like you're actually able to watch them play and actually maybe get some happiness in your life a little bit. All right, so cheer up. I'm gonna be at church tomorrow. Don't tweet me updates and stuff like that. Please don't. I'll watch when I get home. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, Monday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
Goody.
And we'll see you guys on Monday. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your